Hello, everybody. So tonight I'm going to continue discussing Dogen Zenji's Uji, or being time. So the last time that I talked about sort of a general overview of being time and its relationship to modern ideas in physics about relativity and Buddhist ideas of interconnectedness. Tonight, I'm going to focus on 3 paragraphs of being time, and specifically about the idea of the past and how that relates to ideas in my own experience and in Buddhist philosophy and in science to a lesser degree, and why that's important to our practice. Uji, or being time, is a fascicle in Dogen's Shobo Genzo, which is a collection of writings by the 13th century founder of Soto Zen Buddhism. And it kind of contains most of the central ideas of Dogen's philosophy. So at this point, I want to make a sort of my sort of standard disclaimer that I'm not a Dogen scholar. And I have great respect for people who have spent most of their lives unraveling his work, which is very deep, multi-layered, and very complex. And I'm also not a physicist or a scientist, because I just don't have the math skills for that kind of discipline. So I'm using as my sources for this talk a number of other authorities on this subject, mostly this book, Being Time, by Shinsu Roberts, and this book, The Fabric of the Cosmos, by Brian Greene. And various other works on popular science and Buddhism. I've got I put some stuff in the chat if you're interested in going into the physics part of that more deeply. There's some links to YouTube videos from PBS Space Time by Matt O'Dowd, who's like an astrophysicist. He has a very entertaining set of talks on physics on there that I highly recommend. What I am, though, other than a scientist and not a scientist and not a Dogen scholar, is a long-term meditator and a practitioner of Soto Zen Buddhism in America. So when I'm going to be coming at this subject from my own experience and my own perspective, and hopefully I can tie these things together and show how doing that can be helpful for your practice. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the sample paragraphs, and I'll invite you to read along with me silently. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll share that. And then I'm going to go through the text in more detail, picking out the specifics of Dogen's philosophy and its relationship to my personal experiences and thoughts about it. Then I'm going to invite you at last to join me in a short guided meditation on time, emphasizing our perception of the past and how we construct the past and how we interact with it. And then after that, we'll have time for discussion, hopefully. So we'll start off by reading these passages from Uji, or these 3 paragraphs from Being Time by Dogen. So this is going to be paragraphs 6, 7, and 8 from the translation by Carl Beifeld, which is the source for this book. So I'm going to share the screen here now. And everyone see that? All right. A person holds various views at the time he is unenlightened and has yet to learn the Buddha's Dharma. Hearing the words, the time being, he thinks that at one time the old Buddha became a creature with 3 heads and 8 arms, and that at another time he became a 16-foot Buddha. He imagines it is like crossing a river or a mountain. The river and mountain may still exist, but I have now left them behind. And at the present time, I reside in a splendid vermilion palace. To him, the mountain or river and I are as distant from one another as heaven from earth. But the true state of things is not found in this one direction alone. At the time the mountain was being climbed and the river being crossed, I was there in time. The time has to be in me. Inasmuch as I am there, it cannot be that time passes away. As long as time is not a modality of going and coming, that time on the mountain is the immediate present right now of the time being time. Yet as long as time takes upon itself a modality of going and coming, the being in me in the immediate now of the time being is being time. So does not the time climbing the mountain or crossing the river swallow up the time of the splendid vermilion palace? Does not that time spit out this time? The first paragraph reads, a person holds various views at the time he is unenlightened and has yet to learn the Buddha's Dharma. Hearing the words, the time being, he thinks that at one time the old Buddha became a creature with 3 heads and 8 arms. So this is a reference to an image of a demon of delusion. You've probably all seen that sort of Buddhist iconography, these fierce monsters with lots of arms and many heads and bulging eyes and fangs. And it goes on, and at another time he became a 16-foot Buddha. So this is a reference to classical descriptions of the characteristics of a Buddha, one of which is 16 feet tall, gold skin. Sometimes they have long earlobes, a bulging forehead because their brain is so big, and etc. He imagines it is like crossing a river or a mountain. The river and mountains may still exist, but I have now left them behind, and at the present time, I reside in a splendid vermilion palace. So this is describing how we normally perceive time, and specifically, this is referring to how we perceive a process of spiritual practice. So at one time, I was delusional. Then I took up this spiritual journey of its practice, and which is like the crossing over mountains and rivers. And then in the future sometime, I will have arrived at a splendid palace of enlightenment. And it goes on. To him, the mountain or river and I are as distant from one another as heaven from earth. So here Dogen is laying out the basis of his philosophy of what's called practice enlightenment. As I said before in my previous talk, for Dogen and really for all of Mahayana Buddhism, sequential time is only a convention of perception, and it can cause problems with our understanding of reality. So for Buddhism, all of reality merely exists, interconnected and eternal. We spend way too much time and energy working with reality as a sequential order. We cut ourselves off from the totality of existence. Dogen's standpoint is really more like the model in modern physics of the box universe, or the view from nowhen. And I have an illustration of that here. Hang on. Everybody see that? So this is kind of a thought experiment. You've got the 3 dimensions of space and the 1 dimension of time. So it's 4 dimensions. And that comprises a sort of a eternally existing cube. Or our awareness is usually limited to specific slices, which is the now slice here. And that's taking place along the dimension of time. But as you can see, all time, past, now, and the future, all exist. So Shinsu Roberts writes, "This is Dogen's description of how we get caught when we frame our spiritual path as steps and stages. Clinging to this way of thinking is always a problem regardless of the situation. Being caught in thinking of time as 3 sequential time periods, past, present, and future, we obliterate the immediacy and comprehensive totality of the here and now. We're cutting ourselves off from our own life as well as the life of all beings." And she goes on, "Ultimately, this is deeply disturbing and destructive. We adhere to this notion of time out of a kind of anxiety to protect the self. The desire to define realization as something outside of ourselves only to be realized, only to be attainable at some future date, and better than our current ordinary life. And it will only take us further from our true experience." I think that this is also the reason why we can sometimes become frustrated with daily practice. We can find ourselves in a position where we burn ourselves out by putting so much work into our practice, thinking there's some goal to get to. And when that goal, whatever we may think that it is, does not arrive, we fail to see the real and subtle changes that we have gained by practicing. If we can alter our understanding to see that the past, the crossing of the mountain and rivers, is actually present now, and not as it seems or as far as heaven is from earth, then we can be more secure in understanding that this present, this now, is a really wonderful, magical place, connected to all of time and all of life, to all our experiences and all our memories. Paragraph 7. "But the true state of things is not found in this one direction alone. At the time the mountain was being climbed and the river was being crossed, I was there in time. The time has to be in me. Inasmuch as I am there, it cannot be that time passes away." So in physics, we have the principle of the arrow of time. So this is the apparent one direction of time as it plays out in our awareness. You see an egg roll off the kitchen counter and smash on the floor. But we never see an egg reassemble itself and leap back up onto the counter. Time seems to be connected to the concept of entropy in our awareness. In other words, systems go from states of high order to states of disorder. But the math in physics says it makes no difference whether the egg smashes or the egg reassembles. It is only our awareness that sees the sequence only in one direction. Dogen is once again inviting us to step outside our normal way of looking at the world, into that view from no one, to see the sequence as a totality. In that case, all kinds of wonderful things become true. The great matter of life and death becomes clear. We're not born, we don't live, and we don't die. As the Heart Sutra says, no old age and death, nor extinction of old age and death. We are embedded in and connected to an inconceivably vast all. Shinsu Roberts writes, Dogen does not negate the presence of conventional time. There's no problem with using sequential time to get to work, to plan a vacation, or meet a friend for dinner. The problem occurs when you develop concretized ideas about what has happened in the past and what will happen in the future in relation to your present moment. So I'm saying it's vitally important that we understand these last two sentences. The time has to be in me. Inasmuch as I am there, it cannot be that time passes away. To paragraph 8. As long as time is not a modality of going and coming, that time on the mountain is the immediate present right now of the time being time. Yet as long as time takes upon itself a modality of going and coming, the being in me in the immediate now of the time being is being time. So does not the time climbing the mountain or crossing the river swallow up the time of the splendid Vermilion Palace? Does not that time spit out this time? Essentially, Dogen is saying that we can choose either to view time as non-sequential, the time crossing the mountains and the rivers is right now, or you can choose to view it sequentially. The time crossing mountains and rivers spits out the present time of the Vermilion Palace. Both are true. But we spend far too much energy on fixing ourselves into that sequential view, cutting our experience off from the past that we're creating right now. And all the beings here and throughout time we're connected to. That huge realm of reality throughout all time we have participated in, and that still exists in us, and in a sense always will exist. So our spiritual journey is both a process and it's already complete. As Pema Chodron, a Tibetan teacher, says, the only difference between suffering and enlightenment is where you put your attention. And as I like to say, we just do the best that we can right now. So sometimes I'm a 16-foot golden Buddha. And sometimes I'm a creature with 3 heads and 8 arms. But I'm choosing right now what past I create. And that past will always exist. And this is important because the past is inextricably connected to basic Buddhist ideas about interconnection, about conditioning, about causation, and a big last one, about karma, however you want to define that, and also about memory. So good, we've got about 10 minutes. I'd like to invite you to join me for a short guided meditation. Now, if you listen to my last talk, this is going to be very similar to the last time we did this. What we're going to do is, as you probably all know, where we usually start as meditators is focusing on our breath. In this instance, we're going to do a breath counting exercise with a little bit of a difference. Usually when we count our breaths, we inhale, count at the top of our breath, and exhale silently to ourselves. There you go. Inhale, 1, exhale, inhale, 2, exhale, and so on. But now the difference that I want to put in there is that we're going to inhale, count 1, exhale, and the next breath is just going to be a breath. So we'll just inhale and exhale. And the next breath, we're going to inhale, count 2, and exhale. And then just a regular breath. Inhale, exhale. Then inhale, count 3, and exhale. Then just inhale and exhale. And we'll do that to 5, and then just return to 1. Does everybody got that so far? Okay, good. Now I'm going to get us going on that. I'm just going to talk us into that slowly. But before we do that, I want to put one little subliminal suggestion in here. And I'm just going to say this, and then you can just forget about it and just see if it happens. See if when you do the regular inhale and exhalation, see if you can sort of perceive how the first number that you counted is receding into your memory, and you're grasping towards the next number that you're going to count, the next breath. All right? Okay, so just get comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. Now just turn your attention to your breath, the sensation of breath in your body. And wherever you like to feel that awareness. The chest rising and falling, or the air coming in and out of your nostrils. Or just surfing your breath into your body and back out. Now you can let your eyes close. And the next breath, you can start that process of counting. Inhale. 1. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Count 2. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Count 3. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Count 4. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Count 5. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And continue. And now we can just drop the process of counting. Just come back to our normal breath. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Stretch out a little bit if you like. So can anybody see that? How our counting recedes into our memory and how we grasp for the future? It's interesting. So that's all I have to say for tonight. The next time I talk, I'm going to be talking about the future and Dogen's being time. And then after that, I'm going to be talking about the weirdest thing of all. It's the thing that we like to talk about the most in Zen, which is the present moment. And that's the weirdest one of all.